one of the biggest problems with thinking about supplements for the mitochondria is a lot of them are wrapped around these B vitamins that are almost impossible to absorb. So the number two biggest problem for people dealing with fatigue is an inability to absorb nutrients, food, dietary supplements, medication that they take. There's an absorbability problem because they have digestion problems. If someone asks me what is the second biggest cause of fatigue is poor digestion. If you and thinking about digestion, think about like there are 10 steps in digestion. And every person I know that I've worked with fatigue, no matter what the diagnosis is, have at least 1 to 3 steps broken. I promise you. Now, but here's the problem: absorbability. And this is where digestion, okay? And I can't jump on top of the mountain enough. Nobody, no traditional MD, no functional MD is educated and educating people around how critically important we address every single step of digestion that's broken for people dealing with chronic illnesses or chronic fatigue, right? You can take, and I want to know how many people out there are taking a boatload of supplements and literally could see actually all of it going out, a lot of it going out the other end, or you're taking it and you're getting stomach upset with it. And you're even wondering like, why am I taking all of these and I don't feel better? Well, because your digestion sucks. And so with digestion, I want you guys to think about this in our food mapping program, for example, really work to identify which step of digestion is broken for each individual person. And yet out there is no training for MDs around this. There is no training for MDs about this. When I work with people, for example, with mast cell, with POTS, or with IBS, and we're working on really taking apart like what's going on, digestion has always 50% of the puzzle that needs to be solved. And there's a lot of ways we can do that, right? The other side of the puzzle, obviously, is food sensitivities. But speaking about digestion, that's something even without any data, without any further testing, without working with me on anything else, without having to try to find the super special weird doctor around you that knows something about this, Digested solves that problem. And Digested is our number one selling supplement from the store for a reason. And I'm going to explain it, okay? Remember I mentioned that Boost Me, one of the biggest problems with the methylated B vitamins is they don't absorb. Well, B12 is one of the most finickiest vitamins that if you don't have enough stomach acid, for example, it just won't absorb. It doesn't matter how expensive, how great the brand is, whether it's methylated or not, it will not absorb. And everybody who's worked with me knows that B12 is the canary in the coal mines, meaning that when we recognize conditions that are caused by really low intracellular B12, the most important thing I always is going to be not just take the B complex, but address the digestion right away. How can you address that right away without doing anything extra? The easy way? Okay, Digested. It took me 10 years to really come up with a formulation where here's the thing. Every single step of digestion has to be addressed, right? I don't assume it's just the stomach acid. What if it's the protein or fat digestion? What if it's the fermentation? We don't have to make that assumption. We can have one product that solves that for everybody, right? And it's really simple. 1 with small meals and 2 with big meals, right? And think about this. If these B vitamins are very difficult, for example, to absorb, if you have any of these steps in digestion broken, like low stomach acid, what if you took your Boost Me in the morning with your breakfast with Digested? Boom, bada bing, bada boom, problem solved, because this 100% makes sure that that really good methylated Boost Me vitamin with all the things that you need is freaking going to get absorbed because it requires optimal digestion to break it down in smaller particles and activate it for it to be absorbed. This is the missing step, which is why it's in the middle. Boost Me in the morning, Digested is in the middle. When I look at Digested, I've looked at a lot of other products for digestion out there. People tell me all the time, I'm taking digestive enzymes, this or that. The problem is that people don't realize what step is broken. They take a product, it might have 1 or 2 ingredients, it may not even address their digestion issue. Also, is multiple steps can be broken, right? So I don't call this a digestive enzyme because it actually addresses every single step. So you're talking about ingredients like, there is stomach acid, for example. That's, for example, everybody who has chronic fatigue, 90% of you out there with chronic fatigue, you probably have low stomach acid. And that's from experience, but also data. They did a study on people with autoimmune disease. It was a rheumatoid arthritis, where they actually did testing to see how many people in this large group of people with rheumatoid arthritis actually had low or no stomach acid. And the result was, does anyone know what the percentage was? The result was 90%. And that's just one step. That's the low stomach acid step. So for me, really importantly, we have to cover some of the low acid situation. We had to cover the pancreas digestion of your proteins and carbohydrates. We have to cover fat digestion. We have to think about steps in fermentation in one product with minimal number of ingredients. Okay. So this is a teach and learn. If you're enjoying this, type in chat. If there's something you already learned that's really huge, type it in chat for me. Now, here's the thing. When I look at what I call a multiphasic digestive enzyme, okay, there are products out there that I used to use and recommend and prescribe for patients and people I worked with that had over 50 ingredients. And most people, 30 to 50% of individuals couldn't tolerate those products. So with all good intention, you can say, I'm going to find a multiphasic digestive product that covers every single step with 50 ingredients. And they're out there. And that's the problem, is they're not tolerated. So really importantly, with digested, minimal number of ingredients, really small list of ingredients that covers every single step. This is why I love working with people with a lot of IBS, supplement tolerability, mast cell, for example, people who can't tolerate medication or food or a lot of things, is you want something that covers every single step, minimal ingredients. And how do you take it? 1 with small meals, 2 with big meals. And I highly suggest taking the Boost Me in the morning with your breakfast with digested. That will ensure 100% it gets absorbed. That's the 1-2 punch. And digestion, thinking about and tying a bow around digestion, is this. If you can't digest and break down your food, vitamins, nutrients into absorbable units so that it actually can pass through the gut-blood barrier, how can you solve any medical problem, or how can you even absorb the critical vitamins needed to solve fatigue or mitochondrial problems? You cannot. That's why this is a daily reset bundle, is that I'm not just going to be like, this is the one and all. I'm like, I'm going to fix that digestion and absorption. Take it together with this in the morning. If you guys are interested in a teach and learn around supplementation or root causes of some of these issues, put those questions in chat. I look at every single comment. I personally look at every single comment, and I will make that happen, and I will add your questions to the queue. All right, everybody? And please let everyone know, share in the comment section what has been your experience when, let's say, your hormones have been balanced, your digestion has been fixed.